Hello again, friends. It's Crafty Kristen with you here once again. This week we are celebrating the wonderful occasion of Pentecost. And in honor of Pentecost, we have some interesting wind-themed crafts that we're going to make to celebrate. So our first one is going to be a wind sock of sorts that you could hang outside as long as it's not too windy or rainy, or you could hang inside and watch dangle from a fan. So this is going to be a very simple display that's a fun way to celebrate Pentecost. So you're going to want to start out with some basic old paper, and you can use any color you like, of course, to make this more fun and festive and colorful. We're going to use something of a little bit of color. Now, if you want to really get into the season, you can use red, as red is kind of the traditional Pentecost color, but we're just going to go with orange here. It still has that flame theme. And to make this longer, I'm going to cut my paper in half. I'm going to attach it together. Now you're going to start out by decorating this long strip you have. So, of course, you can decorate it with whatever you like. You can remember why we're making this wind sock. So you could write something like, the Holy Spirit came as a rushing wind. You can remember that the story is about Pentecost. You can draw some lovely pictures on here. Maybe you want to do a dove to also represent that Holy Spirit element. Sorry, not the greatest of doves there, but you get the idea. Maybe even a flame to remember that part of the Pentecost story. Or, maybe this is just a fun spring kind of a craft, and you want to add some little flowers or plants or trees or other fun spring ideas, or perhaps you just want to put on some regular old stickers. That's totally fine and dandy as well. Decorate it however you like, and then the next element that we're going to need here is you're going to want some streamers. Just like you would use for a party or to decorate, you're going to take your streamers of whatever color you prefer, and you're just going to cut off, a little less than a foot probably, depending how long you want this to go. You're going to just cut off several strips of those streamers. And you're going to flip your paper over and attach those streamers. Now this can be done, as with a lot of things, with a variety of adhesive attachments. You can use staples, you can use glue. For the sake of speed timing, I'm going to use tape here, so we can just knock it out right away. And you're just going to attach those streamers onto the paper. And this is going to make that wind socky element here. I'm sure that's absolutely a word, wind socky, sure. Anyways, once you've got all your streamers attached, now is the time to complete the picture. So you're going to roll your wind sock together, and once again, you can glue this, you can staple it, you can tape it. We're going to tape it right now. And then, for hanging purposes, we're going to punch a couple of holes in there, and we're going to make it flyable, also a word, I think. We're going to add some yarn to allow this to hang up. So we're just going to string our yarn on there. These scissors could be sharper. And then you have, of course, you can always use ribbon, pipe cleaner, Doesn't have to be yarn, but a stringy substance of some sort. Then we're going to make sure our hole punch actually went through. And now you have your lovely wind sock to remember the wind element of the Holy Spirit. So here's craft number 1, our lovely little wind sock here. Now, craft number 2 is going to be a bit unique. This also involves some string. This is called a thomatrope. And a thomatrope is an old toy that was used way back in pioneer days, 18th, 19th century, a long time ago. But we're going to make one today to celebrate the Holy Spirit. So you'll need some paper or cardstock. I'm actually going to use mini paper plates because it's going to be very easy for me to cut out a circle with the mini paper plates. So I'm going to cut the inner part out. This will allow me to cut the circle and also have it be a very sturdy substance. So I'm going to actually cut 2 paper plates here, and then I'm going to put them together. Now, what we're going to do here is you're going to cut them out. Then you're going to draw an image on each side. Now, the idea is that when these images get put together, they're going to kind of create a new image. So let me explain this to you as we go. So let's say that I want to create the image of a cross. For simplicity's sake, we're going to use a cross and a flame for the flames, the tongues of flame that came onto the disciples at Pentecost. So I'm going to draw my cross. Then on the other circle, I'm going to draw my flame here. And you could do this on just one. You could use just one circle and do one on the back side. But if you're using marker, you may want to use 2 just in case it bleeds through and gets a little bit strange. So here's our flame, here's our cross. Now, in order to make this optical illusion take place properly, we're going to have to glue one of these upside down. So I'm going to glue them together, but when I attach them, I'm going to make sure that my flame actually is upside down. You'll see why momentarily. So flame, cross. And now, after I've glued them together, ideally let it dry for a minute. We're going to punch a hole on each side here. We're going to attach a string to each side. And then what we're going to do is we're going to twirl it, and it's almost like you're making a little mini cartoon video in a sense. So we're going to have string, and then the idea is that when you twirl it, these items kind of seem like they're together in one picture. So we have our cross on one side, we have our flame on the other side, but when I start to twirl it really quickly, it makes them kind of appear. Sorry, I need to get this twirling a little faster. There we go. It makes them appear like they're together in the same image, kind of like that. There we go. It's almost like it's moving. It also looks a little bit upside down. Why don't we try this way? There we go. So, woo, cross, flame, cross, flame, cross, flame, cross, flame. Now, of course, you could do this with other items as well. You could do a flame and the apostles' heads. You could do a flame and, because obviously we don't want the cross to be on fire, but the idea is Pentecost, cross and the fire of the Holy Spirit. So you could do a dove, you could do water, a lot of different options. So that's just one way, but then the idea is that they go together. Now again, the church is not on fire. The flame represents the Holy Spirit. Anyways, there is your thaumatrope. Now, one more craft for you, and this is also celebrating that wind and air element. So we're going to do some blown painting. Warning, this can get messy. It should require a lot of supervision, but it can be kind of fun, and it can kind of turn into like interpretive art as well. So you will need some thick paper, construction paper, cardstock. Then you will also need some regular paint. So I'm just going to use some good old, not watercolor paint, but just regular acrylic or tempera paint or washable. Washable is good. And you'll also need some straws. So what you will do with this is the simplest way. There's a few ways you can do this. You can put your paint onto a plate and then make some dabs on the paper, or you can merely squirt very carefully a few blobs of paint directly onto the paper, making sure they don't go everywhere. You're just going to put some blobs. Now, if your paint is very, very thick, you may want to water it down a bit. This, I think, should do the trick as is. But obviously, if you water it down a bit, then you could use an eyedropper or a spoon or something to spread just little blobs onto the paper. Now, what you're going to do is you're going to use the straw, blow into the straw very carefully, onto the paint. Now this requires a little bit of technique. You have to, of course, get very close to the paint, but you also don't want to be sticking the straw directly into it because then you'll just blow bubbles. So you can try to be strategic in how you aim it, or just see what happens. And the idea, does take a lot of air, is that this is kind of just a fun way to do painting a little bit different. Is it going to make an amazing picture? No, it's kind of like a Rorschach test, and it's just going to be full of blobs. But for kids, it's fun. It's fun to paint with your mouth. It's fun to blow bubbles everywhere. You can even make this really bubbly if you want to, and blow bubbles and then actually dip the paper into the bubbles and make sort of a bubble splatter. There's different techniques, but the idea is just a fun reinforcement of the wind that is another representation of the Holy Spirit, that it's like a wind or air. So we're using our air, we're using our wind to create our masterpiece artwork. And then, of course, if you would like to just let that dry and make a picture out of it afterwards, you can do that as well. But again, highly recommend a lot of newspaper or other some kind of a protective material that's laid down before you do this, because it will get everywhere. This is me being really careful, and it's still splattered a bit on my drop cloth. So you will want something to try and keep things nice and clean, as well as wipes, as well as lots of warnings about please do not suck the paint in, blow your air out. These are things that are required if working with younger audiences especially, but just a fun way to celebrate the wind of the Spirit, the wind as it blows, and the wind or the rushing that can occasion at Pentecost. So have fun, adapt, change, alter, use what is going to work best for your audience and your materials. But as always, hopefully this gives you some creative jump starting to get with your crew and celebrate Pentecost in crafty ways. Now, feel free to comment if you did or didn't like this video. You can also like, subscribe, and be notified for upcoming videos, because we do have new crafts and new children's message ideas every week. So I hope that you have a wonderful week, a blessed week. Make some crafts, make some disciples. See you next time.